Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Ankush here from Alif Consulting. Welcome back in our partner enablement video series. In today's video, we will be going to talk about how to build and design a Windows entire application on Azure. Although you might be having these videos in past, but in this video, we will be specifically going to cover how you can run an entire application on a Azure virtual machine. So here is the agenda of today's video. We're going to talk about what is the three-tier application is, what are the benefits, what are the application flow, what are the benefits and challenges is there, and then we'll be going to walk you through the reference architecture, and within that reference architecture we will be going to walk you through with the key components, scalability considerations, security considerations, and the cost considerations. And the end, I will be going to have a demo about how you can have your application running on the Azure virtual machine. Now, the three-tier application is modular client and server architecture that consists of presentation layer, presentation layer, application layer, and the data layer. The data layer is store the informations, and the application tier handle the logical, and the presentation layer is the graphical user interface that communicate with the other two layers. The three layers are logical, not physical, may not run on the same physical or virtual servers, right? So in three-tier application, what exactly happen? You have a three layer of application architecture, or three layer of components within that architecture, where you have a presentation layer. Presentation layer can be written on any of the language like HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, Python, anything like that. And then you will be going to have your application layer. The application layer will be going to have codes like Java, and then contain the business logic that will be going to support the application core functionality. And then you will be going to have a data tier which is eventually going to store your information about the application. And your data tier can have MS SQL, Postgre, MySQL, MongoDB, and then they can also have like a Cosmos DB and stuff like that. Now, what is the benefit, right? So having the three-tier application can give you the more benefits there. So you will be going to have a improved horizon scalability, performance, and availability. With three-tier application, each part can develop and concurrently by a different trim and of the program of coding in the different language for the different tier developer, right? Existing application and critical parts can be permanently or temporarily retained and encapsulate within the new tier of which it become a component. So these are the some of the benefits of having a three-tier application. Now this is how your three-tier application flow looks like. So you will be going to have your web and presentation layer, in which a user will be going to use a web browser to access that layer. And then you have the application layer, which is will be going to have all of your business logic returns. And then you will be going to have your data layers, which will be going to store all of the information about the application. Now these layers can have a different way of, or a different components of running the the services of the application inside of it. Now what are the benefits or what are the challenges, right? There is a benefit or there is the challenges with these kind of application tier. Let's talk about the benefit first. So you will be going to have a portability between cloud and on-premise and between the cloud platform. Less learning curve for most of the developers. Neutral evaluations for a traditional application model, open to any environment, right? You can have a Windows or you can run it on a Linux as well. Now, what are the challenges, right? There are a few challenges. It's easy to end up with the middle tier that just does a CRUD operation on the databases, adding the extra latency without doing any useful work. So CRUD is kind of read-write operations which happen. A monolithic design prevent the deployment of features. Managing an IaaS application is more work than application that use only the managed service, like, because let's say how that is challenged, right? That's the third point, which is managing an IaaS application, right? Because you need to manage the VM, you need to manage the operating system, you need to manage the patching, you need to put the security compliance with the VM. managing the hardening, stuff like that. So it's kind of overhead to manage the application, because with the managed services you don't need to do these kind of stuff. These are the things basically taken care by the your provider, right? Fourth challenge, it can be difficult to manage the network security in large system, right? When you have a multiple VMs, or if you have a tons of VMs, you can use the Azure firewall, or you can use the firewall as well to protect the or manage the security of the infrastructure. But again, that's going to be a little bit complex environment, right? Now, how this can be help you to do the business challenges, right? How it can help you to basically talk with the customer, right? With this one, what is eventually you can do, if your customer is basically want to run the application on VM, right? They have some legacy applications that they want to run it on Azure, same in as it is in same way. You can use this. You can use your virtual machines to run those kind of application. Virtual machines are very much capable to run your application on the web on the presentation layer, on this, and then their application layer and the data layer, right? And then you can have a discussion, and accordingly either you can build everything from the scratch, or either you can migrate your on-premise application to Azure, or maybe the VMs directly to the Azure as well. Here is the reference architecture which we are going to talk about. So in my reference architecture, you will be going to have an application gateway, and then you will be going to have a web tier, and then you will be going to have a data tier which is going to be storing all the informations about the application or the user interaction, which is basically which is coming inside the applications. What are the key components? Yes, there is a few key components of this reference architecture. Let's talk about the general component like a resource group and availability zone. So resource group is a logical container which allow you to do the segregation, and availability zone is the physical locations which is basically isolated. No, which is not isolated actually. They are the physical location within the Azure regions. A Azure region can have up to 3 availability zone, and they will be going to have their separate facilities like power, cooling, networking. By placing the VM in across the zone, the application become resilient to the failure of within the zone. Now let's talk about some of the network components like the virtual machine and subnets, application gateway, load balancer, network security groups. Right? These are the components. Now, if you want to understand what is application gateway, what is the Azure load balancer, or what is the network security group, there is a link in the description. Please go ahead and check out that. And then you do have a more components like Azure DDoS and the Azure Bastion. Again, there is a link in the description for all of these services. You can go ahead and check out more deep dive about the DDoS and Azure Bastion as well. And then you have a Microsoft SQL Server basically, which can be either you can use the SQL's always on cluster with the within Windows failover cluster, or either you can use the managed instance as well if you are not using the reporting services. And then in the architecture you have a cloud witness server which is basically hosting or storing the information about your failover cluster. So these are the key components which is there in the design. Scalability considerations, VM scale set. Again, the VM scale set can be used within the application, but you need to have a full of the testing of your application, how the application is basically behaving with the VM scale set. Subscription limits. Yes, again Azure subscription have their soft limit and hard limit, and you might need to be consider the subscription limit as well whenever you're thinking about scaling your applications. Application gateway do have a scalability options which you can use to scale the application gateway instance as well. Availability considerations, so either you can spread your deployment across the zone or across the regions as well according to your requirement, and with the traffic manager you can distribute the traffic. And then you will be going to have a health probe. So health probe is you need to be configured according to, let's say your VM is getting scaled, or your application gateway is getting scaled, you need to have a proper health probe configured in the backend so that they can get the health of the backend VMs, right? So these are the some of the scalability consideration. Now the security considerations, yep, use the NSGs, put the VM in DMZ zone for the virtual appliances, and accordingly manage your traffic. Have the encryption of your sensitive data, and enable the DDoS protection for your virtual machine. Again, basic DDoS protection is by default enabled, but again, if you need to have a more granular level of control on the DDoS protection, you can have the standard DDoS protection enabled for your virtual network. But again, you will be get charged because the DDoS protection is quite expensive component. What are the cost considerations? Again, VM scale set and the virtual machine which you are using will be going to into the cost consideration, because you need to think about it what kind of size or what kind of operating system you will be going to use for this application. For the SQL Server, if you are okay to have a SQL managed instance or the SQL managed services, it's better to have that, because you don't need to be manage the high availability and you don't need to be manage the domain controller to manage the Windows failover cluster, right? That's something you can do. If your application cannot be run on the managed services, then you only have option to run the SQL Server on the virtual machine. Load balancing, you can basically have your load balancing according to the requirement. Either you need the basic or either you need the standard, and you will be accordingly get charged for that. For the application gateway, you do have a different SKUs. You have a V1 or V2 SKUs, and with V2 you can also enable the WAF on your application gateway as well. So again, these are the consideration, right? If you use the application gateway without WAF, you will not be get charged for a WAF feature. But again, if you need the application layer 7 security and you need to have the WAF enabled, you will be going to have a separate cost for that. Now let's quickly jump to the demo. So in the demo, I have my application already deployed. So in my application, I am already having two servers, and both of them servers are basically in the different region, but both of these servers are in front of application gateway, right? And my application gateway is somewhere managing the I can say the control. So how exactly is happening it, right? Although my VM is showing some sort of error, but my application gateway and the VM is still working. So now if you go here and if you hit on this one, you will be going to get the IaaS page, because that's where my application gateway is working. So in my application gateway, I have a backend pool configured. I have a HTTP setting configured and I have a listener configured here, right? And the same way, I have my VM on which my web server is running, right? So that's how the application gateway is basically accessing or allowing us to access the website from the public internet, right? And the same way RG01 have a same kind of setup, right? But again, how exactly you want to control it? Let's say if you are running the DR for that, how exactly you will be going to do it? For that, I have a traffic manager setup, and we need to use this traffic manager to route the traffic, right? As of now, my server 02 and which is in the region 2 is enabled, right? And my prime the region 01 is disabled, right? Now what is exactly is going to be happen? As soon as I will be going to hit on the traffic manager, it's reaching to my server 02, because that's where I have a traffic manager, right? But at the same time, if I go here and enable this one and disable this one, so my primary is becoming the region 01 is going to be become my primary, another one is going to be become my secondary, right? And as soon as it's done, it's going to take a little bit of time, and it will be going to route the traffic to the server 01, right? So that's how you can have your application deployed on the VM, and the same way you can use the traffic manager to run or set up the DR as well for your virtual machine. And even if you are doing it within availability zone, then you don't need to be think. So in my case with the traffic manager, I have a deployment in the multi-region. But if you have a deployment in a multiple availability zone, you no need to be worried about anything, because your application gateway is well enough capable enough to with the availability zone, right? How exactly you need to select the availability zone, that's something you will be going to do while creating the application gateway, right? So you just need to search for application gateway. I'm sorry, my bad. So yep, you just need to click on here, and here you have an option to do the availability, right? Either you want to go with the availability zone, or if you want to do, go with the availability zone. So you can spread your application gateway in the availability zone, and same way you can spread your VM in availability zone while creation. So if you say in a virtual machine, click on virtual machine, and you have the VM to be spread across the multiple availability zone as well, and then accordingly you can select in which region you want to spread your VMs, and accordingly you can have them added in the backend pool in the applications, right? So that's how you can have and spread your virtual machines, your application gateway across the multiple availability zone, and you can use them with your application deployment. Well, that's it in a demo. I hope you like this demo. Well, if you like this video, please click on like and subscribe for more upcoming videos, and feel free to reach us if you have any questions. Thank you.